spreadsheet and everything. So basically, if you go, you can look up this lawsuit, right? And this lawsuit is this bank versus many defendants, you know,
Okay.
and the main defendant is her ex-boyfriend and his like cattle company,
Okay.
and then she's also named as a defendant, and then many other lenders are because you know like when you're suing, it's confused when you're suing people for money, like you might have to sue other people who they also owe money to. You know what I mean? Like kind of like if you get in a car accident and somebody hits you from behind, and you also have to sue like the person like who hit them 3 cars behind. Does that make sense? So it's like Candice. It's a smaller company that she had some share in with the boyfriend, and then all these other companies like you know John Deere or whatever. So it's basically bank versus et al.
Okay.
If you go and you look at the judgments, you'll see like there's several judgments, and it says like 2.5 million, like 1.5 million judgment, a $620,000 judgment. So God bless him, Tyler, he took out those judgments and he put them in his little spreadsheet, and then he like totaled them all up, and he says this is what Candice owes, but those judgments weren't against her individually. The judgments, yes, the large judgments, the major judgments are against the ex-boyfriend and his larger company that he was the sole owner of. And
Okay.
then it looks like at some point she makes a deal, she settles with them, and so they came up with like some sort of agreement judgment, and then she's out of the case. And then he kept going, and he ends up getting all these judgments against him. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then what happened is why they're like so mad is that they then went individually, they went to file for bankruptcy, right? So Candice goes and she files for bankruptcy, and she's able to go through her bankruptcy and complete her bankruptcy, right? You know, like the discharge of debts,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. She has to sell some things, renegotiate some things. So that's separate. Um, but then the big problem is why he was so mad is that he goes to file for bankruptcy. And the bank, you know, sometimes your creditors can say, you can't, they don't want them to file bankruptcy, and they say no, they shouldn't be allowed to file for bankruptcy with these debts. These debts should not be discharged. Like if you assaulted somebody and you like maliciously hurt them and they got a big judgment against you, when you go to file bankruptcy, you're not allowed to discharge that debt. You know, they could stop that from being discharged because like and so there's all these different reasons why you can't discharge the debt. So the bank said, nope, he can't discharge these 2.5 and 1.5 million dollar judgments as part of his bankruptcy because he did not keep correct financial records. And they win. So he's not able to put these major things, he's not able to get out of them through bankruptcy. And
Okay.
he appealed it, and then the appellate court agreed with it. And his big arguments were in it, he tried to say that Candice Cooley was his bookkeeper when they were together. And then when they broke up, she left. And it's like he was basically like, I don't know how to use a computer. And she like took the laptop and all this stuff. And like the court didn't buy it. Like they basically say like, okay, but he owned this company before he met her. Like it's still his responsibility to hold it, and he doesn't win. And he ends up he can't discharge these debts through his bankruptcy.
See, I'm with Ringo. Now that makes sense. Because like I said, I had never looked it up myself.
Right.
And I didn't believe Jim. But then when Tyler said he actually pulled it up and saw it, I was like, okay, I'll believe that. But again, I never checked
He just
myself.
misread it. He just misread it, you know? Like
Yeah.
it was the judgments, we have to realize just because it was bank versus et al. Does not mean that every single one of those defendants are responsible for the final judgments. They were given to certain people. And she went through a bankruptcy and she was able to discharge her bankruptcy, like, you know, figure it all out. Even from his thing, the one little company that she owned with him, it was like a feed company.
Okay.
And he had to sell everything off. And he actually had to split that money with her and give her $25,000. And then that just went into the trust to pay out her creditors and everything. But his big issue was he tried to go file for bankruptcy because that's normally what you do, and he was not allowed to include any of those major debts. They're still his. And it just went to the appellate court, and he lost on the appeal too.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not against her. Like, it's not her owing millions of dollars. But it's like, that's boring. Like, I was like, why do I have to get up and explain this to people, you know? But it's like, yeah. But it's like, if I told people, hey, that's not actually accurate, they don't believe me. But if I got up here and I actually showed all this and went through it, the people that were talking